let's just do a quick rewind and re-reference to all of our viewers and fans out there, and those of you that have maybe caught the last video. We just want to draw your attention to our little friend over here, Mini Stanley from Minico. Over there. We'll try and get a quick little...
sorry, I'm slow on this.
Yeah, don't worry. Stanley Minico. As we said, folks, in our last video, Iron Studios, for at least in our world, it's a relatively new statue maker and manufacturer, and our good friends at Cosmic Comics have been kind enough to donate that little Stan Lee to us and to our podcast here, and we thought we'll share the love
and give it away. So
yeah,
I don't know if you want to. If you haven't, we'll try and put a link up to the previous video where we speak more about it, and we'll also obviously just repost details on how to enter it. But if you want to stand a chance at winning this bad boy,
make your way over to the Cosmic Comics Facebook page and hit like. Start sharing the love and the likes for them and their page. And we specifically want you to find the Stan Lee post on their page for that Minico Stan Lee figure. When you do, please just tag either Mark, myself, or both of us, if you're feeling generous in that, just so we can get your name there. And that's the first stage of your entry into our competition. Part 2, we want you to find the Asylum pod page on Facebook. And if you haven't already, please just hit like there. And again, on any of our video posts or anything that we've shared there, just comment, tag Mark or myself so we can get your name for the second time. And third, and finally, again, guys, if you want the statue, it's a very cool little statue. You're going to have to work for it. Third and finally, make your way over to the Asylum Pod YouTube channel. Please subscribe, smash that button for us, share the love, share it with your friends and family, even if it's just to get more entries into the draw. But subscribe to the channel, and then please just comment on any of the Stan Lee posts, any of the videos that have us referencing this guy, that would be this one and any of the previous ones. Again, so we can get your name for the third time, pop you into our draw, and we'll take it from there. And if you want more than one entry, then comment on more than one of the videos with Stan Lee.
Get in there, man.
Just like that. And we are back.
Yeah, man. So we're going to talk about, I don't know about reads. You certainly have that problem where you've overbought and haven't had a chance to read, I suppose, which is what I suffer from. Not an extreme you are about to. If you've watched any of our previous videos, he just went batshit.
It was a good month.
But yeah, man, I want to talk a little bit about Sandman. No, surprise, surprise. I've started reading volume 3, and again, I know I probably say this a lot, but I still continue to be surprised by, you know, there's something like writing dark, and it's dark for what it is. But there's a strange way where Neil Gaiman, like, he does dark, but like this poetic, eloquent way. Because, you know, you kind of like have Gaiman's voice in your head when you're reading. I don't know if...
Sometimes I do. Yeah, as a narrator almost, especially on the non-verbal speech bubbles with its text.
And it almost, to me, makes it that much more creepy and that much more dark because of like that like eloquent, like very posh way, you know, he speaks. And, you know, he's got a great vocabulary on him and stuff.
Yes.
But so volume 3 is famously centered around the Midsummer's
I know exactly what's
Night.
in this one. Yes, Midsummer Night's Dream.
And I want to talk about the 2 stories before that just now, but
Sure.
I read that and I was like, I don't want to use the word whelmed. I don't want to like say, but I read it and I was like, oh, okay. But I had this realization that I don't think I did that Shakespeare story in school. And that was a big aha. I was like, I did 12th Night, Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
And I was like, that's why this maybe isn't this like doof, you know, thing to me.
Right.
You know, I saw the vibe and I got it, and it was really cool how Gaiman took a Shakespeare story and did his whole own thing with it.
Yeah.
But funny enough, 2 other stories that, again, I know that it's going to connect later somehow, but and maybe I'll refresh your memory. But the first one that jumped out to me is I might get the pronunciation wrong, but it's a story called Calliope, and it's this one girl that I think it's if I'm not mistaken, this one guy that he's passing this poor woman on. She's like walking around naked at first. You're like, what the hell? To a struggling writer. It plays out in this really typical stereotypical. Publishers calling him, when's the book due? And he goes and basically
needing a muse.
Yeah,
so
and yes, and he passes this woman on, which you see is a muse, and you're like, okay, you don't see. And then the next thing, it's like, okay, well, he continuously rapes her to get inspiration. You're like, wow, this got dark, like just in one page, like.
Yes.
And then like, and the reason I know, obviously, it's important because at the end, you know, after her like begging and pleading for help from her sisters and stuff that don't want to intervene and stuff,
because they're all muses, and that's the whole thing. Is there's a whole, they're almost like a race unto their own, like fairies, pixies, etc. There are muses.
Yeah,
100%.
And then Morpheus eventually intervenes and comes and saves her. And if I'm not mistaken, they had a child together that they just dropped there ever so slightly. And that's when I, like, you know, it wasn't obvious, but I knew, I'm like, okay, this is going to be important some way or another.
Correct.
So
and
that,
in fact, that is probably, it's going to become relevant in that issue that you and I were talking about, the first appearance of Mazikeen. That issue also happens to be the first appearance of that child.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
And it will, he's important.
Yeah. So again, like, I loved how it was very typical of Sandman. It feels like this really self-contained story. But, you know, yeah, it's got all those same textures that Sandman seems to carry through, which I feel is quite consistent. And then...
again, that's testament to Gaiman's writing. It's at this juncture, he clearly has an overall story that he wants to tell. And like we said in previous videos, he's a master of, here's a little thread, here's a little thread. And as you go on, this one slowly comes into the larger tapestry, etc., until eventually you'll see by the end, the whole picture will be very, very clear.
Yeah. And then the other story that caught me off guard, dude, and I know, like, maybe for you, me comparing it to Midsummer's Dream is like really, but there was something so innocent but so freaking twisted about it. It's after, I think the story's called 1,000 Cats or something.
It's the one issue that I'm trying to find in single comics, because again, it's rated as one of the greatest single comic self-contained stories of all time.
And for those of you who don't know, like, it's the basic premise is the story where in this alternate universe, whatever you want to call it, like, cats are massive. They're like big predators. They're like, not even, I'm not talking about lions, physical house
cats.
Cats are monsters. And then it shows you how humans eventually take over and like dominate the hierarchy, and plays out this whole like crazy story. And even they see their version of Dream within, you know, like, and then,
which is kind of cool with how to different people, races, dimensions, whatever it is, he appears differently to them to make him relevant to them, I guess you could say.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's just that end panel, dude, where it cuts to back to normal home, and it's got this little cute kitten, and then and someone's like, oh, I'm sure it's dreaming. What do you think it's dreaming about? And it's like, oh, probably attacking little creatures. And then it all like glues together for you, like.
And again, we need to find that for me, because that in and of itself, like a Midsummer Night's Dream and all of the things, just brilliant piece of just, like you say, off the side shoot story, sure, 100%, but in the overarching kind of coolness of how Dream is Dream in various ways, incantations, etc. For me, it's another testament to Neil Gaiman's overall storytelling ability, how he can give you this brilliant, jaw-dropping, superb issue in one story.
And, you know, there's a part of me that, because as I'm sure many people have heard, they're in development. They've just released the audiobook and they're doing a Netflix show. And I think for Gaiman...
Do you know if the audiobook is out yet? Is it available? Or is
not
it still...
sure.
I need to check on that, because I do want to get that and listen.
Me too. But I do think... I might have to swallow my words later, depending on how the show comes up. But I do think now is a better time than any, especially how dark some of these stories are. I do think if they try to do a TV show 10, 20 years ago, they would have had to like tone down a lot of it. I'm sure some of the stuff they will have to tone down, some of it.
Sure.
But I think within reason, there's a lot of ways that they've learned how to tell stories that are suggestive. You know, cutting to black is often more effective, you know,
than the actual visual that you get. Yeah, for sure.
And they've seen that there's markets for this more adult market and stuff and these age-restricted stuff. So I'm hoping...
It is a Netflix initiative, isn't it? Yeah, so just that alone, I'm sure it'll carry a lot of the tone, the theme, etc. that it needs to, while still appealing to people without going too far.
We've talked about this, and I know it is a sensitive topic, but you know, I believe in, you know, representation of all races and you know, everything in series, and
even cats.
You know, we've talked about this. I just don't agree when it feels forced. If it feels natural, cool.
Yeah.
And I won't dwell on that too much, but I think Sandman, if they want to, and we've just briefly chatted about Desire as a character that can appear as any gender at any time to anyone.
100%.
I do think if they play it well, they can really make something that will hopefully please most audiences and you know, transcend you know, a lot of age gaps and generations, because there's the original readers and maybe new fans. I think it's got a lot of potential, and I think it's a smart move to turn it into that form of media.
Definitely. And again, happy that it's on Netflix. I think the two that would have probably appeased me the most is either HBO or Netflix, one of those two, to do it right and do it the way it needed to be. That being said, I really enjoyed Amazon's Good Omens.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, giving Gaiman the right amount of control, making him the showrunner, ensures that it'll have the theme, the tone that it needs to, just like Good Omens did.
Yeah, and if you think about it, I mean, it's not a bad choice. Well, I know it's too late now. It is a Netflix show, but Amazon Prime also did American Gods, and they didn't really hold back on that show either.
No. Gaiman had a certain image in his head, and man, it comes through. And I've got those. I've actually found the American Gods collected deluxe edition hardcovers, and pretty close to what you saw in the show. There was definite homages. When I look through those deluxe editions, yeah, man, pretty spot on visually in terms of what came through. So I hope they carry that through with this. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, then another big read, man, like off the top of my head is, and it's a big thing now, it's worth chatting about. I feel a bit bad. I'm a bit like smoggy on the details, but you were really disappointed when I didn't read it last time, and I did get through it now. But it's Death Metal. I mean, following up from Metal. I did my mini recap.
Death, let me get it close. Turn on the damn. Let's try and get the light right. There we go. Look at that.
Yeah, it's this cool foil cover.
It is.
And I think I did talk about this in my finds. Issue 2 is out in the States, as far as I know. We have delays here in South Africa.
Still to get out.
But yeah, man, I don't know if you want to take over here, but like what I'm surprised at is, you know, someone like Snyder and Capullo, like it feels like if anyone else tried to pitch that to the publishers, they'd be like, yeah, you're smoking something, just go.
There's no way that we can do this to Batman or have this version of Wonder Woman or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and like I suppose it's safe to say we might touch on spoilers, but I mean, you mentioned like the Bat T-Rex.
Yeah, totally. It's the one thing that I said to you earlier on was, for me, Metal was in and of itself huge and ambitious and bombastic, and what Snyder did there changed the DCU fundamentally for the last couple years now, when you look at Perpetua and all of these characters coming through. And that was all off the back of what happened in Metal and the end of Metal. And when I heard he was doing this, I kind of thought, okay, how can you make it bigger? How can you make it more rock and roll? How can you make it even more bombastic to top what Metal was in and of itself? And, you know, just off Metal, there were so many characters that he brought in, like the Batman Who Laughs, all the other incantations of Batman, a Superman version that is Bruce, but now kind of like, you know, Doomsday. And then, you know, the drowned version that is like an Aquaman-ish kind of thing with Bruce, his intellect and his drive and his ambition. Just all of those different incantations, and I fell in love with all of those characters. I fell in love with the idea of it. I thought, wow, this is an amazing concept. Now with this, it's like, how are you going to top this? How are you going to take it to the next level? And to their credit, they've looked and said, what's happened in the DCU the last couple years with what has John's done with Doomsday Clock? What has happened as a result of the end of Metal? the breaking of the source wall, what's transpired. And this is kind of, I don't really know where it's set. It seems like it's slightly distant future, and off the back of certain events and things that have happened, the Dark Side War, what's happened to the League through that, Perpetua coming into the universe, and what effect has that had on that the DCU. And it's clear she's got an agenda, she's pushing her agenda, and the Batman Who Laughs, at least for now, seems to be her herald, in a way. But you kind of get that sense of, because he's a chaos machine in some way, shape, or form, that he has his own something. He's plotting something.
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope. I mean, I don't know. I can't remember which page it is, or I might have it wrong. But what I really liked about what Snyder did, I don't know if you picked it up, but he almost not trolled himself, but there's a panel where Batman Who Laughs comes in and he's like, I know you guys have seen enough of me, because when he came out in Metal first and they did all these side shoot stories and they try to milk it for what it was worth, so it was really cool how he kind of like trolled it in that way, and how you can see now he's got his character back and he's doing him justice,
totally. And he's taken him to another level. Now he's not the Batman Who Laughs, he's Lord or something like that. He's literally like a ruler. He's got a crown,
and that's what I can't remember in a way, if that's in issue 1 or issue 2. We might be crossing over.
He's Lord in this one. He's like a king. He's ruling what seems like the earth has been broken up into different parts, factions, etc., and he's ruling the central part there, and everyone's kind of fallen in line to sort of serve him in some way, shape, or form. And now there's rebel factions going around, like you said. The one thing that also jumped out at me is Batman seems to be spearheading this underground rebel movement to try and unseat the Batman Who Laughs rule over Earth.
Because there still is that one argument between him and Wonder Woman. He says we've got to do the small little victories, and she's got, as Wonder Woman would have, this very over idealistic sort of take it all down at once.
100%. And it looks almost like she gets it right at the end of this, with this plan to take him out of the equation. Batman Who Laughs, anyway. And as we've seen in issue 2, you know, both had sort of
Batman's right, like he always is.
100%. But the thing that I loved in this one was that one part where it's like they're out open field, they're mounting this assault on the Batman Who Laughs, and out in the middle of the fray comes Batman, the Batman we know, and he's got a whole other trick up his sleeve.
And he kind of, it's got that Grim Knight sort of look to him, I think. Yeah,
totally. And again, maybe this is the Grim Knight version of him. Maybe we still have to see the real Bruce. Maybe he's around somewhere, no one knows. I'm sure we'll get it as the story unfolds. But that one scene, and I'm sorry, hats off to Snyder, Capullo, tip of the cap to Jeff Johns, but he's got a Black Lantern ring, man, and he just holds it up and says, rise, and then all these fucking dead characters come, and that's his army to fight the Batman Who Laughs. That in itself, for me, I was like, okay, I'm in, I'm done, this is amazing, I love what you've done here, take me through the rest of the story.
No, 100%, man.
Yeah, that part got me, and then, the little twist trick to Wonder Woman using some things at her disposal, nods to the Wonder Woman history, the mythos, with things like her invisible jet, lasso, all of that
chilling
stuff.
there. And it's also one thing I didn't get, because you talked about the different factions, and Themyscira seems to be Hull now in kind some weird way.
Imprisoned villains seem to be locked away there. Definitely, this is happening at some slight future, like you saying. It's stuff's happened that we're not really privy to. Maybe it'll come out as the story unfolds, but at the same time, it's not critical to the story. You can take the story for where it is and go, okay, we get it. Shit's happened. We don't know what's happened. It's almost like the DC animated Apocalypse War, where you kind of see the League are about to go in there, fades to black, then you get a not too distant future. You very quickly piece together that they lost. Shit went wrong. Darkseid beat them. Now they're trying to fight back and usurp him in these rebel factions. So I'm really enjoying it. He's got me hooked on issue 1. I want to see what happens as this thing goes on. It is more bombastic. It is more out there than I expected. And like you say, I don't know how he I don't know how he could have pitched half of what he pitched to these guys and still got them to say yes. Maybe it's because he's at that level now where he's Scott Snyder. And DC are going, dude, whatever you want to do, go for it.
I just hope he keeps it up, which, I mean, by all accounts, it looks like he will, but I just hope he doesn't lose the plot because some of the stuff, if I tell it to a single person, they'll be like, really? You read that in a comic?
Correct. There's no way that would happen. It's out of the realm of possibility. But again, that's what I love about it. It's a comic book. So why not? Why can't you have Batman with the Black Lantern ring and that ring rises the dead out of the ground?
Wonder Woman with a chainsaw.
Exactly. Why can't you have that? Why can't you have Batman's consciousness in a giant T-Rex? Of course you can, because it's a comic book.
Yeah.
And the thing that I like about it, and it takes me back to one of my all-time favorite stories, Alan Moore's story, the Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. His 2 to 3 part take on Superman. And if you read that story, there's and to an effect Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman, and in both of those things, both of them took this approach of it's Superman, and in his world crazy stuff happens, man. He's got this giant fortress of ice in the middle of nowhere with a massive fucking key that only he can pick up to unlock the door, kind of thing. Like, this is the character that you're dealing with. So why can't certain things happen in the story? Because if he can have a giant flipping key that no one else can pick up, why can't he have all these villains suddenly attacking him in a certain manner that they do? Or in the case of All-Star Superman, why can't he find a way to bestow his powers on a Lois Lane if he wanted to? Why can't he go to Bizarro World and have an adventure there where things are completely opposite to how they are here? Why can't these things happen? You know, why can't these other aliens come to Earth to challenge him in a feat of strength to woo Lois Lane or impress? When you tell these things to people, they go, like you say, you read this in a comic, like seriously? But in that context, in that realm, why not? And I like how Snyder's taken that sort of mindset to go, it's a comic book. It's a comic book. It's a comic world. We have these amazing, fantastic characters, good, evil, neutral, whatever they are. Yeah. You know, if I want to give Wonder Woman some magical chainsaw, why can't I?
And I'm interested to see, like, if you know, he'll revive some other characters. Because, I mean, I know, I mean, in Metal, one of the unexpected, well, not so unexpected, you got it after a while, but I think for Plastic Man fans, like how he just came on and he was like hardcore, you know, when he needed to be.
Totally. Even Hawkman, what happened to Hawkman through the whole thing?
The story's very centered around him if you think about it.
100%. And I'm with you, man. If he can take those kinds of characters and not only make them relevant, but make them cool and hardcore, please do that some more with other characters in this as the story goes on, because that's what it's all about, you know, because like you say...
I mean, there's even... What's his name on the first page?
Sergeant Rock.
I mean, like, who saw that? It's like, what? Okay.
And not only that, he's a bad-ass resistance fighter here. And when you think about it, you go, yes, that's what he is. He's a next-level type soldier. Of course he'd be in there on a resistance team fighting the way he's fighting. Why not? So, kudos to them, man. I love the pairing. I love what the two of them are doing together. And I kind of feel on this, they're probably playing off each other. One has an idea, the other one takes it to another level. And their collaborations are just, I think the preface or maybe the caveat that I want to give people going into this is it's not the type of story maybe that not every person off the street can pick up, read, and fall in love with. They might go, what the hell is happening? There's just so much going on here. But certainly, I think people who have a little bit of context to who these characters are, even if they don't know some of them, even if you don't know who Plastic Man is or Sergeant Rock or whatever, the first couple pages will probably get you to fall in love with the Sergeant Rock character if you like that kind of soldier extreme thing. So, I think the point I was trying to make was maybe for new readers it'll get them hooked just because it's so out there. This Metal and this together. Or maybe it's just too overwhelming for them and they kind of need to build themselves up to this by reading one or two other things. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, either way, like I said, I know you and I have checked issue 2 out online. As we get it, I mean, there's 6 parts, 6 issues to this.
Yes, with excluding all the various one-shots and things that they want to do to complement it. Yeah.
But I think we will be definitely covering the series from beginning to end if you want to keep in touch with us about that and keep watching.
And I think we should also caveat that or terms and conditions that by saying we're not going to do let's look at each single page and flip through and go through the story, but we'll certainly have a talk about it and what we found cool, what we found not so cool, if there is anything, what's maybe kind of
confusing
too far
us,
out. Confusing too far out there for us right now. Yeah, it's just, I'm excited about it. I was excited when I heard it was coming. And like I said, I didn't know how they could top what they did in the first one. And sequels generally don't live up to the firsts, but this kind of does in its own way. It is a sequel, but yeah, man, he's taking it to all other extremes and next levels here. So
yeah,
I'm on board.
Nice.
So if you liked what Mark and I were talking about here, or just like our content in general,
please like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification for more videos.
And yeah, do us a favor and find us on the social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram.
See you in the next video.